When Auburn and Alabama faced off last month, they were the top two ranked teams in all of college basketball. This time, they're actually both coming off a loss, or two in the case of Alabama, but still, they are viewed as legitimate national championship contenders. To help break down this weekend's matchup, I caught up with the top experts from both Bama 247 as well as Auburn Undercover. The biggest matchup of the weekend is Auburn and Alabama. And to help me break it all down, we've got Cody Goodwin and Nathan King coming to us directly from Bama 24/7 and Auburn Undercover. So my first question to you guys, and Cody, I will start with you. Are you guys rivals like off camera as well? I know this is a big thing in the state of Alabama this year.
I mean, I guess I can only speak for me, but I think Nathan and I are pretty cool. I don't know that the Iron Bowl rivalry extends to the writers that covers the team, but I don't know. Maybe Nathan secretly doesn't like me and he just hasn't told me yet, and he's about to tell me now.
Well, I do feel bad at the game in Coleman Coliseum. Cody came up and said something to me right as the game ended, and I don't even think I turned around. I was finishing up the story, and then Cody, I don't think I ever apologized to you for that. So this is my formal apology. So maybe there is a little bit of that there. I don't know. I apparently stiff armed you at the end of that one, so that's my bad.
This is good stuff, and I appreciate the football reference just to show where things usually stand in the Alabama-Auburn rivalry. Guys, this was the talk of college basketball just a few weeks ago, and everybody was saying, hey, this is the first of four potential meetings. The second one obviously coming up this weekend. But what is surprising about this is that both teams coming off a loss. In Alabama's case, they are coming off of two losses. So before we get into the specifics of the matchup, I want to ask you both, and Cody, I will start with you. Like, what does your team need to do to be the best version of themselves based on what you've seen most recently?
Yeah, like most NATO teams, they got to find a way to hit their shots. They got to find a way to take care of the basketball. That's really been one of the bugaboos for Alabama this season, is just turnovers and a very weird thing, a very weird development. And we all know NATO's offense kind of prides themselves on, not just a high volume of possessions, but taking advantage of those possessions and putting the ball in the hoop. So first and foremost, that's always kind of the big thing for Alabama. But then on top of that, like, Auburn is a team that plays pretty physically. So can you match that physicality on the road in what's going to be a pretty hostile environment? I thought Alabama handled it pretty well against Tennessee last week. Just kind of fumbled the last 30 seconds or so to watch a 4-point lead turn into a buzzer-beating loss. So I think Alabama's got the tools to go into Neville and do it, but it's one of those things where this team has been so frenetic and inconsistent that we have to see it in order to believe it. That's just kind of what Alabama is this season.
Yeah, Auburn got caught in a tough spot coming from celebrating Saturday afternoon in Lexington, and then obviously a couple hours later, that regular season championship, clinching a share of that, turned into an outright title when, like Cody mentioned, Tennessee was able to beat Alabama on a buzzer beater. We knew looking at Auburn's schedule that these two games, they went to Kentucky on Saturday, quick turnaround to Texas A&M on Tuesday. That was going to be a really difficult stretch. Number one, because you're staying on the road and you have a quick turnaround, that's going to be difficult in this league. But Buzz Williams and Texas A&M have proven over the years to be really the kryptonite for this Bruce Pearl Auburn team. Buzz Williams now 6-2 against Bruce Pearl as Texas A&M's head coach, and they just looked gassed in that game. They looked shorthanded, and they looked like they were playing against a tricky system. That's because all three of those things were true, and so they'll be looking to get healthier, get Denver Jones back in the rotation potentially on Saturday. But Cody mentioned the physicality. That's what Auburn is trying to get back to. They want to be a more physical team. Texas A&M, 24 offensive rebounds against them. Of course, that's what the Aggies like to do, but that was still the most Texas A&M has had in a game all season, and Auburn just kind of got punked down there on the inside. And so they know they can be better than that. They've got to be better on the glass. And so not necessarily a concerning loss for a team that now only has 2 defeats in conference play, but definitely one that Bruce Pearl and his staff can point to as a hungry Alabama team comes in here on Saturday.
Cody, I look at this game as potentially meaning more for Alabama than it does for Auburn. So I want to get your take on that. But first, and again, this will go to both of you, but Cody, we will start with you. Beyond the physicality, are there specific keys for each team going into this one? It seems like just shot making is always such a key variable for Alabama, but what else can we distill this down to?
Yeah, I think it's just shot making. I think you start there when it comes to Alabama and what they obviously want to do. And, you look at that first matchup against Auburn, they shot the ball fairly well. I know they didn't lead at all in that game. Auburn came out with a 9-0 run to start the game, and Alabama was able to get back and tie the game a couple of different times in the second half. But yeah, I think there were just too many stretches where they weren't able to hit enough of their shots. They had a handful of extra turnovers in the second half, and you got to give Auburn's defense a little bit of credit in that first matchup for, when the game got close, their defense stepped up and was able to force some tough shots from Alabama. I think when the game was within one possession, Alabama was 3 of 12 from the field. So a lot of credit to that is to Auburn's defense. But yeah, I think shot making first and foremost, taking care of the basketball. I know I'm going to continue to harp on that because that's just been kind of a weird thing for Alabama this year. But then also, you look at some of the losses, especially the loss to Florida earlier this week. That was, I think, only the fourth time this season that Alabama got beat on the boards. They're usually a very, very good rebounding team. That's a credit to, bringing in Cliff Amore, the Rutgers transfer. He has been an absolute force in the inside for those guys, something that they did not have last season. So, Florida kind of bullied them again, physicality, bullied them on the boards on Wednesday night when Florida was able to come into Coleman Coliseum and get that win. So, I think Alabama's going to have to do a lot better on rebounding when it comes to, trying to secure those possessions and not giving Auburn a lot of second chance points, because that's, for as much as we talk about Auburn's defense, that offense is just as efficient. And if you give them second opportunities, you lose the rebounding battle, especially on the offensive glass. That's where Auburn can take advantage and get those second chance points. And Alabama can't have that, right? When your offense is predicated on getting possessions and taking advantage of those possessions, winning the battle on the boards is obviously going to be huge too. So we'll see if they can step up and do it.
Yeah, it's easy to point to that first matchup in terms of things that Auburn did well, obviously going out there and winning such a historic game in Coleman Coliseum, but probably can't necessarily expect Alabama to shoot 5 of 26 from deep again. I mean, you're going to have that defensive intensity in your own building, but Mark Sears really struggled in that game for Alabama. It was a really good effort by Auburn's defense, but at the same time, Alabama just missed some shots in that game. If you're going to have that kind of three-point shooting performance, that's obviously going to be part of it. So assuming that kind of regresses up or improves up to the mean for Alabama, you've got to cut off their water in other areas. Cody mentioned the rebounding. Alabama is a good offensive rebounding team. They're not as physical and tenacious in that regard as someone like Texas A&M, but they do take a lot of three-pointers, and so you get a lot of long rebounds and a lot of second chance opportunities. Auburn needs to turn those around. They need to cut off Alabama's water after just one possession, and I think Auburn would be well served to make this fit their style once again. I think that's something they really, really did a good job of in that first meeting in Tuscaloosa, and that's kind of been a nice notch for this team throughout the season, is their ability to adapt to different styles of play. And they made Alabama slow down. Alabama wanted to get out and run in Tuscaloosa, and Auburn turned that much more into a half-court game. Of course, they are so efficient. They're the number one offense in the country, both in a half-court setting and just, period, on the offensive end of the floor. They'd like to slow Alabama up a little bit. You're going to assume maybe some more three-point makes in that game. But again, I talked about the rebounding. Auburn's front court has kind of struggled to rebound the ball the last couple games. They'd like to return to form, not only to be able to beat Alabama, but to have, that confidence heading into the postseason.
All right. Well, I guarantee you this. You will not find a more thorough breakdown of this matchup anywhere on the airways. Cody, Nathan, you guys are the best at what you do. We appreciate you. For much more on Alabama and Auburn, head on over to their respective sites, auburnundercover.com, bama247.com. Everything you need to know about the two of the best programs in college basketball. And they're not bad in football either.